We didn't choose this life to make things easier. We chose it to make them truer. Around here, I sometimes think of it like a ledger, not one kept in neat columns with ink and paper, but the kind you feel in your bones. One column holds what we gave up: convenience, free weekends, shiny new everything, and the ease of living in a world that never asks you to wait. The other column holds what we've gained: food with a story, children who know where their dinner came from, and a home that doesn't just shelter us, but asks something of us in return. This isn't a complaint. It's an accounting. And maybe the real question is, in your own life, what would show up in those columns? What's worth giving up so that something better can grow in its place? This morning's math started in the garden. We traded quick grocery runs for months of weeding, staking, and watching the sky. That's the cost side of the ledger. Hours bent over rows, evenings we might have rested, even the sting of storms undoing what we've worked so hard for. But then there's the basket in my hands, heavy with zucchini and supper already written in the green. That's the gain. Ordinary food, but food that tells a story. The trick with zucchini is timing. 6 to 8 inches long, and they're tender and sweet. Miss a day, and they'll swell overnight. And if you're overrun, and you usually are, shred them, tuck them into freezer bags and 2-cup portions. Come January, when the garden is only a memory, you'll pull one out for soup or bread and be grateful for the taste of summer you saved. Supper tonight is sausage and zucchini unstuffed casserole. On paper, it's just sausage, onion, garlic, tomatoes, zucchini, rice, spices, and cheese. But in real life, it's a receipt. Proof of the hours in the garden, of hogs we raised, of choosing to feed our people from close to home. The sausage browns in the skillet. I think about how this is the cost side of the ledger. Months of feed, planning, hours in the meat room processing into pork chops, sausage, roast cuts, and ham. But on the other side, flavor I trust, nourishment I know, and a connection I could never buy in a grocery aisle. Not everyone raises hogs, but you can still bring this connection into your own kitchen. Find a farmer you can name, ask them how are the animals raised, what are they fed, who does the processing. Buying meat this way means more upfront. Maybe a chest freezer, maybe a quarter beef, maybe splitting with a friend, but it stretches further than buying piece by piece. And if bulk buying isn't an option, start with sausage. It's affordable, stretches flavor far, and can turn even a pot of beans into supper. To this, I'll add paprika, Italian herbs of basil, oregano, thyme, rosemary, and sage. You could substitute fresh herbs if you still have some left in your garden. This is where the kitchen feels alive. And I wonder sometimes if we've lost the habit of eating food that tells a story. So much of what fills our plates comes wrapped and rushed. We eat to be full, but not often to be connected. Maybe that's the difference here. The table becomes the place where cost and reward meet. I could have left this in the same pot, and typically I usually do, but I wanted to quickly grab some photos of this recipe that you can find over at ourhomeandheritage.com, along with more heirloom recipes. I also share encouragement and recipes through my weekly newsletter. I'll leave the link below if you're interested in connecting over there. I added a sprinkle of cheese and popped it into the oven to allow the cheese to melt. It's nothing fancy, but isn't that the point? While the oven does its work, I pause outside. All of this reminds me that the beauty is often quiet, tucked into the ordinary. For now, this moment is already enough to feed the soul. And when I step back in, the fragrance of zucchini and sausage greets me, the casserole golden and ready to set at the table. If you're wondering if this can be made ahead, yes. Assemble it to the point of the cheese, then refrigerate, and finish when you're ready. It freezes beautifully too. Tucked away for 3 months, pull it out on a cold night, sprinkle with cheese, and you'll remember what summer tasted like. This casserole doesn't look like much until you read the story behind it. One of the things about this life that doesn't get talked about much is the toll it takes on your body. Bending over rows, hauling wood, preserving late into the night. It's beautiful work, but it's also tiring work. And I've learned if I want to keep showing up for my home and my family, I have to take care of my body too. Maybe you feel this in your own way, not from farming or gardening, but from caring for the little ones, working long hours, or keeping up with a household that never seems to stop asking. Whatever your version looks like, the truth is the same. Home is steady work, and steady work leaves a mark on us. Lately, I've been using this Bob and Brad MS7 mini massager. It's pocket size, but don't let that fool you. It has a deep tissue percussion that works out the knots after a day of hoeing rows and hauling buckets. What makes it different is the built-in heat. The warmth loosens the tight muscles in a way I noticed right away. And because it's extremely quiet and lightweight, I can use it in the evening while I'm on the porch, or even slip it into my bag if we're traveling. It charges with USB-C, so it's simple and convenient, which, I'll be honest, is rare for most of the things in my life right now. If your own days leave you stiff, whether it's from gardening, preserving, or just the ordinary work of keeping a home, this little tool makes recovery a lot more doable. Just so you know, this is FSA and FHA eligible. If you've been looking for the perfect, lightweight, effective massager, this one is really nice. I'll leave the link below so you can check it out. One small way that I can keep showing up for this life is caring for my body. But even with all the care in the world, the truth is, homesteading carries other costs too. Sometimes it's the small things, more early bedtimes. We've learned to repair instead of replace, to wait instead of rush, or to rush instead of wait, depending on the task. And always to choose good enough over picture perfect so we can keep the main things main. But sometimes the cost is heavier. My sister lost a cow this past week after a hard calving. She'd gone hip lock, and though my sister tried for days to nurse her back, she didn't make it. We did what we could, but not everything can be mended. That's the side of this life that doesn't make it onto postcards or pretty photographs. It's the mud on the boots left at the porch, the quiet ache that comes after doing all you can and still coming up short. And yet, it's also part of what makes the rest of it matter so deeply. Maybe you've felt this too in some way. Not the same way, but in your own rhythm. That tug between ease and meaning, between choosing what's convenient and choosing what's lasting. The question always comes back to this: what did you give up so that something better could grow in its place? End of summer peaches are a short-lived gift here in West Virginia. It was always said you had to enjoy them while you could, because once they're gone, they're gone. And isn't that the very definition of cost? If you don't pay attention, you miss it. For this cobbler recipe, I started with my go-to biscuit recipe. Only I added a bit of sugar to the dough to make it more fitting for dessert. The peaches went right into the cast iron skillet first, soft and golden, and then I dollop the biscuit dough over top. It bakes into a crust that's tender underneath and just crisp enough on the edges. Simple and humble, exactly the way I like it. Cobbler doesn't pretend to be fancy. It doesn't need to. It's the kind of dessert that feels like gathering. A skillet on the table, spoons passed around, everybody dipping in. And maybe that's why it endures. My grandparents understood cost. Their lives weren't curated. They were continuous. Work flowed from the field to the kitchen, to barn, to table, and back again. Their ledger wasn't about building a legacy as an idea. It was about living a life that lasted. And I think that's still the invitation of simple living. It doesn't make life easier. It makes life connected. Every meal, every chore, every small habit of care ties us back into a bigger story than ourselves. Each week, I like to gather up what's been passed down to me, the kind of things that have fed families for generations, and send it out as a simple note from me to you. Recipes like this cobbler, homemaking rhythms, and seasonal ideas, all rooted in the kind of heritage that steadies a home. And you're welcome to join through the link below. And as always, thank you so much for following along with me. Until next time, friend.